right, guys, welcome back to another video. Lots to talk about today, from some interesting Xbox news to some rumors about the next console, as well as some PlayStation numbers and some games that are in development. Lots of things to go over, but before we do, if you do enjoy daily gaming news and content, make sure to hit that subscribe button, help the channel grow, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and also check out my Spotify. Link is in the description. So one of the major things that's utilized in gaming today is AI upscaling technology. It takes a lot of the pressure off of the hardware you have, and it gives you a better experience in games, gives you a better looking game and all of that stuff. We've seen that implemented on PC with like DLSS, and you have the super resolution, the super FX resolution from AMD, which is also in some of the Xbox games. There has been FSR3 implemented, I believe, on Immortals of Avium. And Microsoft, they are working on their own AI upscaling technology, and it's being put to use now with Copilot PCs. And it looks like this is a technology that is going to be right in line with the other ones. And Phil Spencer seems to be pretty interested in how this is going to be utilized. And Digital Foundry actually did a comparison showing its use cases so far. But if you haven't heard about this, the Auto SR, or the automatic super resolution, is an upscaling technology being implemented on the latest Copilot Plus PCs featuring the Snapdragon X processors. And they say here, Auto SR stands out in two exciting ways. It's applied automatically and enhances existing games. Like other SR technologies, Auto SR uses AI to improve frame rates and image quality. However, Auto SR focuses on bringing the benefits of super resolution to your existing game library with no manual configurations needed. This makes it ideal for players who prefer a straightforward experience. And on Xbox, if you're on that console, you've already experienced that with the HDR stuff and the FPS boost for games where it was all done via the software, and you would just pop your game in, backwards compatible games in, would get an FPS boost. It's straightforward. You didn't have to tinker with anything, and it just worked. And that was a pretty cool thing that Xbox was implementing. One of the additional features that I thought made the Xbox console pretty awesome so far this generation. They continue here and say, simply start your game and Auto SR instantly enhances it, allowing you to effortlessly enjoy visuals that surpass native 1080p quality with the fast frame rates typically seen at lower resolutions. And Auto SR boosts details of performance on compatible hardware, transforming your gameplay and letting you experience select titles in a new light. So this is really interesting. Digital Foundry did a comparison here, and basically they say Auto SR is no DLSS or XESS, but it certainly has its uses, and when it works well, the quality boost is appreciable. It's an intriguing start for the technology, and I'll be following its progress with much interest. So that's the start of it. It does work when it works well, I guess you could say, and it's the very beginning of its life cycle. We'll see how they continue to improve on this feature. But the biggest question, I think, for me right now is, how is Xbox going to be utilizing this in their games, and will they be adding this into the future of Xbox consoles going forward, especially with what we kind of are hearing about what they are doing next. We're hearing about those rumors about really making it essentially just a PC with other launchers on there, being able to play everything that you have. They're looking to do a handheld and everything. And Phil Spencer does also seem interested in how this technology is going to be working. And you would think if he's interested, then he's going to want to bring it over to Xbox, because he is actually on here reposting this Digital Foundry look at Auto SR. I hope they do implement this, because in my opinion, graphics at this point, they've kind of reached their pinnacle. Like, they get slightly better every generation, but there's never that really huge wow moment that we have gotten, that at least I've seen, besides maybe Hellblade 2, which was pretty amazing looking, but still it didn't blow me away from the sense of like when we went from the PS2 to the PS3 and the OG Xbox to the Xbox 360. I think we're at this point now where it's just these small incremental upgrades, better fidelity, better FPS, better lighting, and things like that. So we're not going to see this just insane jump in graphics from generation to generation. And this AI upscaling technology and other things like this is really going to be what puts games over the top, especially on consoles when they have to keep the prices down in order to be able to sell them to the mass market. And when it comes to the next Xbox console, we've heard a ton of stuff, but there is another rumor just to continue what we have heard. This comes via Jez Corden and the Xbox 2 podcast. And according to Jess Corrin, recapped here by Clute on X, saying, according to Jess Corrin, the Xbox handheld will be a separate device, an add-on to the Series X successor, and not a hybrid device. And the next-gen Xbox is a traditional home console with a handheld add-on. So that is kind of what I was expecting. The only thing I was thinking was potentially there would be that hybrid ability with the handheld where you can just plug it into your TV. But I mean, if it has any sort of HDMI outs, you could still end up probably doing that. But I thought it was going to be more like the Switch. But I'm happy to hear that they are still going to be having that traditional home console, which we kind of already knew as well, because Sarah Bond had already said that the next Xbox was going to be the biggest technical leap, and you're not going to be putting that into a handheld. It is going to be in a box of some sort. So they're going to give people the options. And I think this is a great move by Xbox. Give people the options for the hardcore gamers that really want that at-home experience with the best possible graphics and FPS with a very powerful console. And I would even be okay with pricing it a little bit higher and giving more power than what they usually do at the launch. Like, even if they have a real premium Xbox console for the home players who just want that console experience, and then you have the cheaper Xbox handheld for the people who just want to be able to game on the go and get access to the latest AAA games. Maybe they'll do something like that. Either way, I think this is a great move. Obviously, we've seen the success of the Nintendo Switch in mobile gaming is huge, and I feel like they see that and they want to be able to access those gamers all around the world who enjoy the mobile gaming. And with their ecosystem with Game Pass, it just makes a ton of sense. So pretty excited to see exactly what these consoles are going to be when they do eventually release them and announce them. Now let's talk PlayStation numbers, because we got PlayStation financial reports, and this obviously always creates discussion online, but we will quickly go over this. So here are the highlights. Here are the numbers that you need to know if you're interested in this. Software sales represented $3.3 billion in revenue out of the total for the games and services segment. That's almost 20% growth year on year. And then on top of that, add-on content sales, they say, particularly grew compared to the same period last year, up 37%. Now, when it comes to the PlayStation 5 games, they say over 53.6 million PS5 games were sold during Q1, 80% of them digitally, which again, another indication that we are completely moving into the digital era, and I think physical games are fading away. And they say that's compared to 56.5 million during the same period last year, so a slightly down in the overall PS5 game sales year on year. Now, here's where the discussion always comes in, and it's interesting. It's funny to me. It's kind of absurd that people are still going down this route, but they say revenue from hardware sales were on the decline, though, down 21%, with the PlayStation 5 shifting 2.4 million units during the quarter compared to 3.3 million last year, a 27% decrease in units. And then when compared to Q4 fiscal 23, which ended March 31st, 2024, PS5 sales were down 44% in revenue and 46% from the 4.5 million units shifted then. So this is telling everybody one thing, and that is that console sales have reached the market. It's much harder now to find more people to go out and buy consoles. They've kind of saturated it. They are where they are. You've seen PlayStation down, you've seen Xbox down, you've seen the Nintendo Switch down. So for this generation, they have reached their customer base. The only way that they could, I think, reach more people at this point is, one, releasing a new version, a new iteration of the console, or two, drastically slashing the prices of these consoles. If they slash the price by like $100 off, they will reach more people to go out and buy them, even like $150 off. They will push a lot more units. So that's what these numbers are telling me. But you see the console wars always happen when Xbox comes out with their numbers or when PlayStation comes out with their numbers. And the reality is both are down. But the bigger reality is the console sales don't matter nearly as much as they used to. PlayStation is going the way of Xbox. What is important to them is their services and their subscriptions. They're moving slower than Xbox is into that realm, but that is where Xbox and PlayStation are primarily going, and console sales are mattering less and less for both of those companies. So to me, that is honestly the least important number there if you're looking at it from the financial perspective. The most important thing here is the games and networks and services sales, which is up 12% year on year. And Xbox is also doing very well on that end. Both of them are going to try to improve that way by putting more games on multiple different platforms, and by having the PlayStation Plus subscription and the Xbox Game Pass subscription. The actual hardware and console sales, it doesn't really matter nearly as much as it used to. You see when Xbox comes out with their numbers, PlayStation fans dunking on the Xbox guys about that, and the Xbox guys saying, well, console sales don't matter. It's all about these services. But then PlayStation comes out with their numbers, and the same guys that were getting dunked on, saying that console sales don't matter, are now dunking on PlayStation for their console sales. But the reality is the console sales don't really matter for either. And it's slowly moving to services, network, ecosystem. All of that is far more important than the actual pushing of the hardware. Neither of these companies are in trouble going forward. I think they're both going to do very well, which is good for gamers and good for the competition. Now, when it comes to some more games that PlayStation is going to be putting out, and again, this further just shows their strategy isn't about the console anymore. Their strategy about putting their games in more places to reach more people. There was a report here that Fire Sprites, a first-party Sony studio, is working on a dark horror game, and it's going to be from an established IP, and they say potentially releasing on a PC day one. And I would not be surprised if this happened. This is the way that they are going. It's not just going to be multiplayer games released multi-platform. It is going to be their single player experiences are going to be releasing on PC day one, and potentially releasing in other places. But it says here, currently PlayStation Studios has a large number of unannounced projects in the works, and one of them being a single player narrative horror project developed by the studio Firesprite, which was acquired by Sony in 2021. And although we know little or nothing about the game officially, over the years rumors and leaks have emerged around this project, such as an internal document that would reveal the game's codename being Heartbreak, and statements from insider Colin Moriarty, who claimed in a podcast that the game could be set on an island and have a female protagonist. And they say, now we talk about some discoveries related to the game's release platforms, the specific genre, and the possibility of the resurrection of an old PlayStation IP. So specifically, a PC release could be coming, and it could be bringing back an older IP. Both things that PlayStation, I think, should do: dive into a back catalog, get older IPs out there that haven't been made in a while, and obviously release their games on PC. The first discovery comes from the website of Firesprite's game designer Emily Stell, who lists the project as a narrative horror title, with the platforms being PS5 and PC. And then they also say here that the speculation has been circulating about this game and the possibility it's not a new IP, but an existing one, an idea that has been fueled in the past by reputable insider Jason Schreier, hinting on Reddit that it wouldn't be a new one. And they say all of these gain strength thanks to another discovery made in the resume of writer Ren Alex Rose, who worked for Firesprite from 2022 until April of this year. And in her resume, she mentioned having worked designing characters and plot lines within pre-established IP, confirming long-held suspicion. So that is a game that is being worked on at PlayStation Studios, at Firesprite. Looks like it is going to be coming out on PC day and date at the same time as PlayStation. And again, would not be surprised whatsoever if that happens. And I think it is actually a good move. Now we have another studio shutting down, and that is Ready at Dawn. Meta is shutting down the studio Ready at Dawn. They were acquired by Meta in 2020. And they say, speaking to Android Central, a Meta spokesperson told the publication that cuts were made to ensure that the Reality Labs project stays within budget and the Oculus studios can make a better long-term impact in VR development. Now, the games that this studio has worked on, they've worked on a bunch of big games and some good ones as well. In the credits, they are on PSP games Daxter, God of War, Chains of Olympus, and God of War, Ghost of Sparta. I think I've played all of those, and those were actually really fun. And they also worked on PlayStation exclusives, 2015's PS4 title, The Order 1886, which a lot of people now talk very positively about it, but when it first came out, it got bad reviews, and it was basically just like a tech demo and stuff. Graphically, it was pretty insane, though, what they were able to do back on the PS4 in 2015. And then since then, they say here, developed well-received VR games, including Lone Echo and Lone Echo 2. So fortunately, that studio is being shut down. It's just another thing to fall here within the gaming industry in 2024. All right, just a couple of more things here. The Lord of the Rings Return to Moria game has now been dated for Steam and Xbox Series X and S for $20 coming on August 27th. This game actually did come out in 2023. But it was only on the Epic Game Store, and then also hit PlayStation 5 in December. And this is like crafting survival Lord of the Ring game. If you enjoy Lord of the Rings and you've seen some videos of this game, but you haven't played it because it's not on Steam or Xbox, and I feel like a lot of people skip games that aren't on Steam, especially if they're playing on PC. And now you're going to be able to check this out if you were interested in it. There's videos, you can go see that for yourself. And then we have Callisto Protocol, which we know was a game that was highly anticipated, but a failure when it did launch. And now we're hearing that key content was actually cut before the launch of the game, which could have potentially hurt its overall reception. In fact, this comes from Glenn Schofield. He's speaking about the game and what happened with that. And it says, in October or September 21, I was told, you're going to get the time, put whatever you want into the game. So I spent that Christmas holiday just designing and coming up with ideas with some of the guys. And then January comes around and some of the Crafton folks come over and they just said, no, it's December 2022. I guess that's for when they were going to release it. And he says, I really liked working with them for the first couple of years. It was really the last year or so. We went public and it put an awful strain on the company and the board of directors and everyone else. And then they Crafton put the strain on us probably. So basically saying here that they weren't able to get everything they wanted into the game, and maybe just giving an excuse here as to why it did not do as well as a lot of people had expected to do. I remember when they first showed off this game, people were extremely hyped for it. And obviously going back to the Dead Space games, people loved those games, and then having a spiritual successor to it, and from what they showed off in the gameplay, it looked phenomenal. And then when it launched, obviously it just didn't hit, didn't get great reviews, and I don't think it sold very well whatsoever. But you can go check it out on Game Pass if it is one you do want to check out. And then Call of Duty Black Ops 6, the leaks are running crazy. I mean, there's so many leaks, but I think it's actually helping the game overall. I think people are getting more excited about it. I think people are now seeing the omnidirectional movement, or whatever they call it, and who were kind of hesitant whether they wanted that originally in a Call of Duty game are now seeing it, and it looks pretty cool. So I feel like the leaks are actually good for this, but tons of people are already playing this game, and that is because of jailbroken PlayStation 4s. They say people are accessing Black Ops 6 via jailbroken PS4 consoles, and then all the leaked footage is from PS4. So if you're ever wondering why graphics don't look up to par to what we have seen on the current generation stuff, it's because it is all gameplay from a PS4. And they say with access to the game seemingly being the beta version that will go public at the end of August. So you're seeing tons of stuff. If you don't care about leaks or spoilers or anything, although it's just multiplayer stuff being shown off, nothing from the single player campaign, so there's really nothing to spoil other than wanting to see how the game looks. You can find a lot of footage online. I think the new movement is going to be a lot of fun, and a lot of people are going to find new ways to run around the maps and exploit it, of course, but also just to get better at the game. And hopefully there's not too many cheaters when this one does launch. But I'm going to end the video there, guys. If you did enjoy this video, hit that thumbs up if you're new, or hit that subscribe, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.